Today we have Meredith and Brian Sifford here, and we wanted to bring you guys on to the podcast just to talk about, obviously your success in the business, talk about lifestyles and kind of where you guys got started and all that. But, we're going to talk about some stories and good and bad, right, that's happened with y'all's deals, or funny stories. But really, before we get started, or to start, I'd like to hear about you guys and why y'all got into this business, where you came from, corporate-wise, and kind of where you are now. So whoever wants to start.
Sure. So I'm a retired Master Chief from the U.S. Navy, both active and reserve. And we started dating, and I read the Rich Dad book, always knew real estate wanted to be part of my life. I was working probably at AT&T at that time and doing the Navy Reserve on the side. And so we always thought we wanted rental property as part of our retirement plan, right? We had kind of she was going to be retired from the school system, Fort Worth ISD, where she was working as a school psychologist. I was going to retire from AT&T after 30 or 40 years of working, have my Navy retirement after about 25, 30 years. And then we figured, hey, some rental property might be good.
Yeah.
I used to work at Home Depot and always kind of had a knack, used to build houses, so always had a knack for that stuff. And I was always impressed by, when I was building a house, sometimes the salespeople would sell them to a real estate owner who was just going to make it a rental. And I was always inspired by those guys. And so I always kind of wanted to be in the single-family rental real estate or rental real estate business. And I made sure she was on board.
Nice.
Yeah, so like he said, I'm a school psychologist by trade. So I was working in the school system, and I just knew that whatever I was going to get from teacher retirement was not going to cover the life we wanted to live when we did retire. And then I didn't pay into Social Security, so some people are like, oh, Social Security is not going to be there. It is going to be there. That wasn't even an option for me. It was just teacher retirement. And so we would have discussions about what are we going to do to supplement our retirement one day. And when he started bringing up real estate, it wasn't that foreign to me. My grandmother growing up had a couple of duplexes that she owned, and those always did really well for her. They were in Southwest Fort Worth, and that was something she had to leave to my parents, when she passed away, that had, huge gains as far as what she bought them for and what they eventually sold for. So I saw that as something that, my grandmother did, so it wasn't so foreign to me, even though she didn't really teach us or anything. It's just something she did. And so when he started asking me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he read The Richest Man in Babylon to me over a campfire while we were dating.
How romantic.
Yes, yeah.
Like Mary Roberts, yeah.
It wasn't
Fireside chat.
Yeah, it wasn't that difficult to get my buy-in because it wasn't so foreign. But our original plan was to buy single family, and by the time we retired at age 59 or 60, to have 10 single family rentals paid in full. And that was going to be the money that we lived off of.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we kind of started the process on our own.
And I'd always listened to, real estate radio shows because there wasn't podcasts back then in 07, 08. And I'd listen to the Lifestyles Unlimited podcast with Del Walmsley, her radio show. Every Saturday at 11 is when I would cut grass. And it was on the local AM station here.
Huh.
And so she bought me these little earphones with an antenna. And so I listened. I'm serious. So I'd cut grass at 11 on Saturdays while that radio show was going on. And bought a single family house at auction with my cousin, right? Because, of course, I'm going to do it by myself, right? Because who can mess up real estate, And so went to auction when a builder was going out of business. We bought our first single-family house, and went in half with my cousin. Awesome, right? And
It's business with family.
Well,
yeah,
what
I
can
mean,
go- what
everybody
can go wrong
partners
with
with
that?
family, right? So it took several years for me to figure out that I needed some mentoring or some hand-holding throughout the process because I was doing all the work. Love you, cousin, but, you know, he
Yeah.
was getting half the paycheck, right?
Right.
And so it took us to reach the pain point and me to finally, you know, heard Dell on the radio telling you why you shouldn't partner with family, how you should do it the right way, you know, and told her, hey, I need to go to this case study up there in Dallas, or in Irving was where we were located here in DFW. And, yeah, I mean, signed on immediately. But it took 5 years of me listening to the radio, believe it
Yeah.
or not, before I reached out for some help.
So you bought that first property. What year did you buy that first property?
At the auction
In
in
08,
07.
07, before it really hit the downturn of that
Yeah.
market.
It was right at the beginning.
Right
May have
before I got laid off as a builder at Lennar, believe it or
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
That-
When they killed half their construction, or 3/4 their construction managers. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then we, a couple of years later, were looking for another rental house, and we found a house in short sale. But we liked that house so much that we moved into it
Mhm.
and rented out our house that we lived in, our first home that we ever bought. So when when he first went to like a case study at Lifestyles, we had 2 single family.
Or 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5.
Yeah. Thanks to the cousin,
Yeah.
right?
So you guys mentioned Lifestyles Unlimited. I know y'all are a part of that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends over there that are a part of it. So other than the radio channel that you were listening to with Dell, what brought you guys into Lifestyles? What led you to that group?
Well, I did look, so we went to the case study. You know, they have a case study once a month where, you know, people go and check it out before going through their education. And I looked at some other groups out there. I mean, everybody does their due diligence, right?
Hopefully.
Some people-
hopefully.
Yeah. And they had the best track record, and
Yeah.
they seemed to be one of the best programs to go with. And after doing Lifestyles Unlimited for 10 years now, I guess. This August is 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it is the best program out there. I
Yeah.
do. I actually worked for them also for the past 6 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how we had the opportunity to meet and,
Mhm.
and get to really know each other.
Yeah. At LU events.
At
Yeah.
LU events, you know, at all the different events we've been to, all the, you know, classes that I've been a part of that you've taught, whether they're one-day classes
Mhm.
in Atlanta, I think we've been to, but, you know, just all these different things and just hearing you talk about it. I've learned a lot from Lifestyles model as well, right? And so one of the things that the Lifestyle model offers, I don't really know if this is the right term, but how they really cater to the LPs versus the GPs,
Yes.
right? And I think GPs come from the LPs, but really they have a model set up for the LPs and the success of the LPs. You want to talk about that a little bit, because I know you teach this stuff and it's real easy to you, but I think that's an important piece of their model that
Yeah.
has made them successful.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, speaking as a member, Lifestyles, Dell had the vision and to set it up where it's a like-minded community of successful real estate investors, and as GPs or operating partners, we agree to participate by some rules. Maybe it limits our compensation. Maybe it limits certain things we can do, or fees that we could take inside of a syndication. But ultimately, what that does is benefit the LPs or the passive investors and set up the deal for success, I guess I'd say. Yeah.
And we're limited partners as well.
Yes.
So we appreciate that sort of fence around what's acceptable in, you know, being part of that community. The other part that Lifestyles does better than I think any other program is the education, not just for people who want to syndicate or you know, have their own small property, but for the limited partners as well. There's so much education that goes into how to read an analysis, how to decide if a deal follows your investment strategy. So we don't have to go back and teach our passive investors or our limited partners about that. They come to us with a groundswell of knowledge already, and the questions that we get really are more high-level questions about a specific deal versus having to go back and teach the basics of multifamily investing. And so as GPs, that's a huge advantage for us.
Yeah. You're not having to educate everybody that's invested
Correct.
in your
No.
deal and all that. And I'm ignorant to this. I don't know this very well, so help me on this. I know that there's regulations on you have to have so many points of contact for people that invest in, and through their structure that they've set up, they set up these monthly, probably 2 or 3 times a month, where y'all can get together and meet new
Networking events.
networking events and whatnot to meet new people. And there's people that are just passive investors there. There's people who are syndicating deals there, or leads in that case. So they've created this environment for everybody to get together and do this and be able to invest in multiple deals. So I think that helps on the capital raising side for sure. I
Definitely.
would say that helps there. How many members does Lifestyles have today? Do we even know? I think it
I would
changes
say
daily.
over 40 or 50,000
Yeah.
international members. I mean, because we have people live outside of the country that invest in deals
Yeah.
as LPs. I've seen that happen once or twice, but I mean, I think we're in every state for sure.
And that's both a single family side, because they do have a strong
Yes.
single family
Yes.
presence, and multifamily
Yes.
there. So
And actually, the Lifestyles brokerage in 2022 rankings at CoStar was like number 5 or 6 in the country in,
Oh my
in
goodness.
transaction volume.
wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know
that's
that.
awesome.
That's really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been a part of the Lifestyles since 2016. I've been a vendor with Lifestyles. And my funny lifestyle story that I'll tell is Jerry Turner, a good friend of mine in the industry,
Jerry.
is the reason why I'm in multifamily today.
Oh.
He had an insurance claim on one of his properties to do the roof, and I was just really doing single family and roofing for multifamily, and he's like, hey, why don't you come do my property? And I did it. And, to toot my own horn, because I do that occasionally, is I did the job. It was 30-something buildings, and we did it in 16 days.
Wow.
We did the whole property, and he's like, my goodness. And so then he started looking at more properties and dragging me along to look at these properties. And he's like, well, can you do more than just roofing? I'm like, well, we do for single family. And he's like, well, why don't you do it for multifamily? And so kind of grew my business through that. And then he started referring me out to Lifestyles people and whatnot. And then I go, you've referred me to a lot of people in Lifestyles. I probably should become a vendor at some point,
Yeah.
right? And so I did, and really Lifestyles is where I got my start in the multifamily business, and obviously it's been great, and met lots of great people like you guys and some of our friends that we have in the business. So Lifestyles is a good community, right? Good
Yes,
community
yeah.
of people and to bringing people together. So that's really good.
So we were talking before we got started here and went on camera, and you guys said a couple things that kind of stuck out to me, and one was that you enjoy the business because you get to provide affordable housing to working class people,
Yeah.
and I don't think everybody looks at it that way because it is a business and everybody's trying to make money, and a lot of people focus more on the money making aspect. And the other thing that you said that kind of stuck out to me was that we all know there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of issues. We know what the issues are. There's problems with funding, with lending, with the rates. They're out there, but there's still money to be made. Y'all know that. You guys were talking about that before we came on, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like, there's still good people out in this industry making money, providing good housing, affordable housing for people that need it, and that's inspiring to me. And I wanted you to have a chance to talk about that.
Okay. I'll take the first one. So I truly believe that, every person deserves a clean, safe, upscale, quiet, affordable place to live. And there is a certain weight with knowing that, we're responsible for hundreds, thousands of families having a nice place to live, right? And the beautiful thing is not that people are asking to be taken care of, they just want a nice place to live, and they will compensate you for that. And if you provide them that need, they won't leave, right? Nobody loves to move.
Right.
Literally, it's like the most stressful things in life is like death, divorce, and moving, right? I mean, it's like number 3. So
Building a house, I think that's
No.
somewhere in there.
ours has been pretty easy, actually.
good.
But so if you just provide, this basic necessity to life to people, they will compensate you well for it. And
Find a need and fill it.
yes, find a need and fill it. Yeah. Yes, great point.
Well, and we do take great pride in our properties. We are not slumlords. We go in, we fix up the property, we do it well, we make it very nice. We have community events. We try to create a sense of community on our properties. So we are not of the mindset of just money, money, money. Two things can be true at once. We can provide a nice quality place to live that people enjoy, that can be a community. Over COVID, we did so many things. Our staff was amazing in helping people connect with, different charities. We had different things where we, just buy pizza for everybody, or just try to keep everybody's, together as a community still when they
Resident
had to
appreciation
be,
events,
when they had to be, locked up and not going to work and stressing about how they're going to pay their rent. But our properties did just fine. I mean, we had some delinquency, but we had very few people who tried to work the system and just didn't pay because they knew they couldn't. Most people did everything they could to pay their rent. And I think that speaks to, our staff especially, just really making this a community. This is people's homes. We fix things, we keep it nice, we do the appropriate repairs, and people want to stay, and we really don't have problems with massive turnover or that kind of thing. So that piece is important. That I think some people going into just being a syndicator, they just look at how can I make money, but that doesn't mean you can't make money. So our investors are very happy. We have been, just very blessed with, our life is so different over the past 10 years, the things that we've been able to do. So it can be win-win. It doesn't always have to be a win-lose scenario.
Yeah. Over the past 10 years, it's funny, I thought about this the other day. We've been through, as operators, probably 8, GP properties and a couple IROs, independent rental owner. We've been through, over the past 10 years, 3 retirements. I retired from AT&T. I retired from the Navy. She retired from the school system. Countless vacations. I'm serious.
We do enjoy a
And,
vacation.
probably other 22 or 23 other LP investments, right? And it's phenomenal, right? As long as you buy for cash flow, get good debt, as you mentioned, things going on, get good fixed rate financing, operations will weather you through anything. When real estate goes against you, you're always going to have the cash flow if values go against you.
So true. One of the things we talked about before,
And
go ahead.
those are not my principles. Those are just lifestyles principles.
Yeah,
Right? I just
yeah.
learned them.
One of the things we talked about, you to date anyway, have only done fixed rate financing on
Yes.
your deals, and which is not that common in this industry as a whole, right? Most people are doing, you have a bridge debt or something
Not
like that.
common over the past few years.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. But one of the things that's afforded you the luxury of is when the market has done what it's done with the interest rate spiking. You didn't feel that pressure from that. Maybe the insurance pressure has hit you a little bit in a couple of areas, but you're more stabilized because you've only done fixed debt on your properties, and so that's a big advantage. And historically, you only have seen that in lifestyle deals in the last few years. Most people are always doing bridge and then financing out of it.
Correct.
Right? Which it's a strategy and it's a teaching, and I get all that around that, but it's probably saved more deals here lately than did. And hindsight's 20/20 because you can't always know that. But one of the things that I think is pretty incredible with that is you go for a 90 in 90, right? So the 90% occupied 90 days, and maybe that's something I'm missing that I don't fully understand, because lifestyles typically is buying distressed properties still. You're rehabbing them, doing that, and all of your CapEx money is not held with your lender, it's held in your capital raise, and then you go for a 90 and 90. So expound on that a little bit so I can understand how that works, because I thought that you had to have, before you could get permanent debt, you had to have 90% occupied.
Yeah.
So that's not to say that we've never done short-term debt, because we have bought deals that would not qualify for, say, like Fannie or Freddie.
Okay.
So we have done short-term debt. They just haven't been, they've been fixed rate short-term.
Oh, okay.
With the option to extend. They've been much more conservative short-term debt. So, we bought a property, 72 units in Wichita Falls. There was a whole building down. Like, it was a mess.
It was crazy, right? And this wasn't that long ago, 2017. We bought 72 units for $15,000 a door.
Wow.
Built in 1980, and the rehab was $15,000 a door, right? And so yes, we had that. That did not make the 90 for 90. They were not keeping records. They were writing on blue line paper. That's what we called it, AT&T. Blue line. Not an Excel spreadsheet, not a graph paper. Blue line.
Wow.
Who was paying rent weekly? And we turned that property around.
But we had a very distinct plan. We were coming in at a significantly discounted price. We knew exactly the plan. So even if interest rates had come up some, we still would have been able to get out of that, because we were so low on what the property cost us versus what it was going to be worth.
Yeah.
So we weren't using bridge debt to just make a deal work. We were using bridge debt the way it used to be only used, because, this property was in such bad shape that we couldn't get any other debt on it. But we were turning it around. So that's not to say there's not a place for bridge or short-term debt. There is. We just really feel like there has to be a plan and not just appreciation. Something that you're actually going to do to the property, something as far as...
You have to create value.
Yeah, to create value.
rehabs, right?
Yeah, not just to assume the value is always going to go up.
Sure.
So that's kind of the perspective we've taken there. Now, the 90 for 90, are you talking about for debt or for
To
the
qualify
lifestyles
for
rule?
agency financing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
Lifestyles also has a rule about, and that's why we've taken it a bit, part of why. We could have gone faster even than we did within lifestyles. But part of being a part of that community is to agree that you're not going to take on too much.
not going to do rapid acquisitions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you really can make sure your properties are running and functioning before you move on to the next one.
Makes sense.
So high level though, so we bought that property. That's a great deal. 15 a door rehab. So we're all in at 30. We cash out refi 2 years later at 60 a door.
Wow.
And then we sold it a couple years later at 76 a door. So
Wow.
it worked out
That's
for the
awesome.
partnership.
It worked out
Yeah,
quite a
it
bit.
was a great deal.
That's a pretty good deal. Well, So we talked about you've worked for Lifestyles
Yep.
and all that. So explain what you do or have done at Lifestyles over your last period here.
So when we bought our second property, Willow Bend in South Irving there, I retired myself from AT&T, replaced my income. We call it real estate retired, right? And Lifestyles asked me to come on, initially in a multifamily mentor capacity, you know. They twist your arm and say, hey, we showed you how to do this. Go show some other people, right?
Help others.
Yeah. And Lifestyles is a give back. When you're successful, you know, they'll ask you to come give back. And that's another thing that makes the community so successful. Did that for about a year, and then they asked me to come on and start teaching when they expanded their national program in 18 it was late 17 or mid 17. They had done some national events, but they made a push in 17, and I taught the initial boot camp, the 16-hour, the 2-day financial freedom program. Learned how to teach it and taught it in Detroit, and then Phoenix, and then Jacksonville, and then for the past 5 or 6 years, been bouncing around about once a month, teaching it somewhere nationally for Lifestyles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's where they sign on new memberships, right? So that's the teaching about the single family and then
Yeah.
into multifamily. And
It's a 2-day financial freedom program. It's the nuts to bolts. If you want to invest in real estate, it's the best class you're going to go to.
Got it.
Teaches you single family, multifamily, finding, buying, rehabbing, operating, you know, and then cash out, refining, or selling. I mean, it's the nuts to bolt single family and multifamily real estate investing.
Drink from the fire hose.
It
Yeah.
is, yes. You got to go to more than one because you learn new things every time. We've
And
been to
when-
it several.
Yeah, when we attended the 2-day, we really had no idea about the multifamily world.
Mhm.
Our goal was to have 10 single-family houses by the time we were 60, and we
Yeah.
were in our 30s at the time,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Way back in your 30s, right?
yeah, well, it's 10 years ago, so. But,
And yeah, after
but that was a long-term goal. And
That's
then,
Awesome.
after leaving the 2-day, you know, okay, let's go buy some apartments, you know, and then
Yeah.
3 years later, I quit my job at AT&T because I replaced my income with a couple of apartment communities.
Wow.
It's
yeah,
crazy.
it just opens your eyes to what can actually be done in real estate, and it's very specific, and it gives you tools to do some small things on your own, but then the opportunity if you want to do something bigger to be a part of that group. But I mean, we had read book after book after book, and in the single family world, we couldn't figure out what this, like, okay, we know that you're supposed to get a hard money loan
Mhm.
for the rehab, but we could never find anybody to help us actually get through that
Yeah.
process. And then we went to the 2-day, and they just made it so simple. Like,
It's like-
here's the person. Call this person. This is what you do. And we just could not find that on our own in the outside world.
To
So-
compare it to, I don't know, it's like bowling, you know? It's like you're bowling, but the bumpers are up. When you invest in real estate, you know, with Lifestyles Unlimited, right?
Yeah.
The bumpers are there to keep you in the lane, you know?
It's a good illustration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so I know you guys, you don't have a crystal ball, so yeah, you
Sure.
can't tell the future. If you could, you know,
Yeah.
hindsight's 20/20, it'd be great. We'd all be asking you questions and following your lead. But where do you see the industry headed, and what do you have to say to folks that there's a lot of people we said, you know, sitting on the sidelines, buying into the negativity and the bad news that's out there? What do you have to say to folks that are sitting there waiting for something to change or whatever?
Opportunity is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been in the North Texas market as operators for 8, 9 years now, maybe 10 years, right?
10 years
And-
passively.
And
8 years
lately,
operating.
we're in acquisition mode. I mean, we're looking for deals. We're touring deals. We're underwriting deals. Right now, I'm seeing transaction prices 25 to 30% off of last year's highs. and, you know, they're still forecasting, the people with the crystal balls, right? Are forecasting, you know, rent increases. Yes, they were 10 and 15% over the past couple years per year, but they're forecasting 6% to North Texas. We have international money coming in. We have other states coming in. Just because our housing costs to the employment costs for employers is such a large difference, right? It's still affordable to create jobs in Texas compared to some other states. And so with some of the interest rate stuff you mentioned earlier, you know, deals I'm evaluating are 25 to 30% off highs. And we looked at a couple of new deals that we could possibly buy, brand new builds for significantly less than replacement cost. And as long as you get into a fixed rate loan and you cash flow day one, you can operate through anything. I'm in acquisition mode.
So you're saying,
I am
get off the
looking.
bench, get in the game,
Yeah.
let's go, right?
Or wait, I'll get in the game first.
Yeah.
You can catch up later,
Let me
right?
make
It's
some
gonna be
money.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
we-
I'm serious. I mean,
Yeah.
the people in North Texas, I'm speaking on that market because that's where I'm at. I mean, yeah, if you can buy, the people I know are evaluating deals, looking for opportunities.
And there are strong markets all over the country, so you
Mhm.
just have to, you really have to know your market that you're investing in. But we see this as an opportunity to pick up some higher quality assets at a discount. And then, you know, you have to be a strong operator, operate strong over the next couple of years. And then, you know, there's not a lot of new builds going on right now. They're finishing up with what had already started, but new ones coming on. And so in a couple of years, that's going to create even more demand for housing, especially in this DFW area. The growth is not stopping. So we see on the horizon even more demand for rental property starting in, say, 25.
So you guys obviously are looking and probably have a pretty good pulse on what your passive investors are looking for today, right? So, you know, maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, they had unrealistic expectations, or they were realistic at the time, but today's market, they're unrealistic. So what are your passives correction on reality of today's market? What does that look like for the passives today, or what are they looking for today in today's market for a return?
So just to preface what we say here, we are dealing with, I would say, more educated, not educated in general, but as in the multifamily world, limited partners. So because they're part of that lifestyles community, they're being taught what to look at and how to underwrite. So in our world, we see people paying very close attention to percentage of rent hike. So if you say you're going to increase rents by 30% year one, that's not going to fly. Maybe 3 years ago it did, but right now, a more settled, just like what Brian's saying, what's actually being predicted, 4 to 6%. I mean, there's definitely, if the property is very below market and you have a plan to bring it up to market and that's a 30% bump, but you better have a good reason behind that. It can't just be because. They're also looking for some cash flow. In the past probably 3 years, people were jumping on board with little to no cash flow in the first few years. Our limited partners are going to want some cash flow. Years 1, 2, 3. And then they're also going to look at your exit plan. If you're going in at a lower cap rate or a higher cap rate than your exit, so if you're going in at a 5 cap and you're exiting at a 4.5 to 4.25% cap, that's going to be questioned. There's going to be some, like, how's that going to work? So just being very conservative in those numbers is going to be helpful for getting people on board. You have anything to add to that?
Well, also track record of the operator, right? Fortunately, we've been blessed and done things very well just by following mentors and leaders in the business, right? But track record, operation plan, business plan, that's they want to know the story, and what you've done before.
Yeah.
To have faith you can do it again.
Right.
Right.
So, y'all been in the game for a little while. Hit us with a story. What do you got? Entertain us.
I mean,
So, well, we didn't bring this up when we were talking about what people are looking for. I think the other thing, and this will segue into this story, people are looking closer, I think, at the neighborhoods that we're buying in. So a big
Yes.
rule that we've heard from other, much more seasoned syndicators is don't buy in the hood,
Yeah.
right? That's a big one that
Yeah.
that we hear.
y'all know Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Becker. I think
Yeah.
that's it. We coined that from him, but it's so true. So Brian has a good story. I'll let him tell it because.
Oh, yeah,
It's
we're
from
looking
his
for our
perspective.
third deal. Yeah, so this is, let me see, 13, 15, somewhere around there, right? 2015. And we bought Willow Bend. I, quit my job at AT&T. We finished the rehab at Willow Bend. So it was early 17. And looking for the next one. And there was this 160 units on auction.com, right? And in Fort Worth. Now, Fort Worth, I've learned this since then. I-30 is kind of like the equator, right? For Fort Worth. And
35 and 30.
yeah, 35 and 32. So
More specific.
This
Yeah.
was this one was in south or east Fort Worth, I'd like to call it at that time, but really it was southeast Fort
Southeast.
Worth. And
Mhm.
Meredith was in the school system, Fort Worth ISD, so she knows submarkets. She knows kids that go to elementary schools all over town, right? So she knows residents, basically, right? And which is our customer. And so there was this property, man, I did some initial analysis, and she's always kind of she's got the veto, right?
Yeah, I say no
All right,
automatically to everyone.
Did the analysis. No, we're not doing it. I'm
Nope,
like, oh, come on,
not
baby.
doing
We
it.
got to go look at it, And so there was this one I really liked it, and she's like, no, we're not going there. I was like, but it's right on 30. She's like, no, we're not going there. No, we're not going to invest in that area. And so after me wearing her out for a day or two, she's like, fine, let's pick up the kids from school. Let's go drive the property. Because the numbers look really good, right? And I was looking for my next deal, right, for us. And so we pick up the kids. It was a Friday afternoon. Pick up the kids from school at 3:30, right? Drive over the property. It's about 4 p.m. And as soon as we pull into the parking lot, I knew, okay, yeah. I looked over. I was like, yeah, babe, I think you're right. We're not buying this one. And my 7 or 8-year-old daughter.
Oh, she was probably 7 at
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
My 7-year-old daughter in the back of my F-150. She goes, Dad, why is everybody sitting on their hoods drinking out of paper bags or paper sacks?
And it wasn't just a couple.
And
It
this
was
is
a
like,
lot of people. Yeah.
My 7-year-old daughter said this, because she knew, right?
Like, something's not right here.
And Meredith didn't say anything. She just looked at me and gave me the look, where I knew. I was like, yeah, babe, you're right. Turned around and left the property. So.
Yeah.
You didn't even come up with something creative like, well, Daddy's going to make this a better place.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it was just, okay, yes, you're right.
And that's funny. To just segue into another story, sometimes the kids will be doing some at home, and because when a broker calls you, hey, you interested? We'll go out there and look at it first thing, right?
Sure.
Now we do that
You can
every
learn a
time
lot
you
from
drive,
driving a property.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it'll be almost dinner time on a evening. Just picked up the kids. Hey, we're loading the truck. We're gonna look at the property, and the kids will be like, "Well, can I stay here and watch my app?" No, you're coming with us, right? And the last time we drove a property, the last one we bought last year in Las Colinas, our daughter, once again, she's 12 now, and she's like, "Why do we have to go?" And Meredith told her, she's like, "This is our business.
It's family business.
This is what we do, right? So we're going, right?" And sure enough, we ended up buying that property. I mean, it's kind of funny, but you got to drive the properties.
You do.
It's awesome.
They have learned now that they're older that usually we end up eating out that day.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, I'll go ride and
Get some
and
free
might
food
get
out of
some,
it.
might get,
Can
might
I
get a
pick
fun
the
dinner
restaurant?
out of it. Yeah.
And,
So.
you know, we're trying to get our kids in the business, right? And because they understand. They see how we have more time with them. They see either one of us can take them to school, pick them up. And so 6 or 8 months ago, I started my daughter. She turned, no, it was longer than that.
It's been a
When she turned
year
10,
or so,
yeah, it's been a couple
years.
years. I started having her do, before I send out monthly reports to partners, I would take my iPad and my pen and mark up the rent roll, because reports are always 30 days in arrears. So I just update the rent roll, hey, this one's leased, this is the new rent, just with pencil, blue Apple pencil, whatever. And so she liked drawing on my iPad. So a couple years ago, I said, hey, I'll give you $20. Start doing this. Look at that one. If it says pre-lease and it's vacant here, line it out, write pre-lease, write the new rent. And so that's kind of been her monthly job for $20 for the past couple years. And 2 months ago, my son asked me if he could work, you know. And so I said, okay, Ella, you got a promotion, you know. Sammy, you're now the rent roll updater. Ella, you're the supervisor, right? And it's funny, she's standing there over him, and I was like, I'm not telling you how to do it, Sam. Ella's going to teach you, right? She's 12, he's 10. And I mean, 2 hours, right, of her teaching this to my son. She was like, she'd go to look at her phone. I was like, hey, I'm not paying you to look at your phone. I'm paying you to supervise your employee, you know? She's like, but Daddy's taking so long. I was like, well, help him, teach him, you know? So we try to bring our kids in the business and involve them with it. When we
That's
tour
awesome.
properties, when we go out to properties. Yeah. I got a great story about washing machines, but maybe for another time.
Right.
Yeah, we
And
can be here
my
all day
daughter, yeah.
with stories.
Yeah, we have, our kids work with us too in the businesses, so it's an awesome thing to bring them and have them be involved in it too, so it's great.
Yeah, it's funny because both of our sons went to a case study
Mhm.
at Lifestyles.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for Heritage, I mean, it worked for me at the time, and then I think his son came home to him and goes, man, I really like this multifamily thing, and now, you know, here we are. It's, you know, committed to multifamily in both of our businesses. So
That's awesome.
it's been really good, and getting your kids involved and being involved. Heck, they're going to take over the business one day and
Yeah.
probably do it better than y'all did, right?
Well,
Yeah.
we have such a better starting point,
Yep.
you
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
It took my son, he's just now 10, so he's never really been as interested as my daughter, but part of that is just age. But then over the summer, we went to Hawaii and we flew first class, and he had never flown first class before. All of a sudden, he's very interested
How do I do
in
this?
real estate. Like, Dad, I want to do what you do.
How do
This
I
is
do more
awesome."
of these trips?
That's what it took for
incredible.
him. So everybody's motivated different.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys for coming
Yeah,
today. I
absolutely.
really do.
Thanks for having us.
If somebody's interested in getting in contact with you or learning more about Lifestyles, they can reach us, and we'll connect them with you. So you don't have to give your
Sure.
personal information here, but we'll definitely connect them. But
We're just-
I wanted to bring you guys on. You're friends of mine.
Yeah.
Made a lot of friends in this industry, but you guys are some of the top-notch friends out there. Even though I've never done work for you, but that's a separate story we can get into.
That's another
one day.
conversation
That's another
that
conversation
we
we'll get
often
to.
have.
But I wanted to thank you guys, and really appreciate you guys making the time to come out and be on the show today.
Yeah, thanks
All right.
for having us.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.